So can everyone hear me properly? Give me some emojis or some nodding heads or something if you can all hear me well. Yay, emojis. Excellent. So welcome everybody to the Univirtual Experience 2022. So this is one of the events for the VR researchers team, Univirtual Experience. We're kicking off this, well, we started yesterday and some events today and more events tomorrow. So this is a multi-day conference event. So if you're not aware of some of the other events that are going on, feel free to check out online, educatorsinvr.com, and you can see the various events that are going on today and over some of the upcoming days. We are happy, I am happy personally, to introduce Evelien. Evelien is, I think it's fair to say, is it fair to say, Evelien, you are the founding member of the VR research team? That's fair to say, right?
I guess, yeah.
So Evelien and I have been working with the researchers in VR team for about 2 years. Evelien is probably the founding member, and I joined, I think, 2 weeks later or a month later or something. So we've been around this for a while. Oh, by the way, if you see a drone flying around, that's part of the filming. So just ignore the drone. That's being used for filming purposes. I'll let everyone know. So Evelien, I'll do the formal introduction. So Evelien Ydo is a psychologist and an educational scientist. She is currently working as a VR researcher at the University of Twente, and she is the owner of, we were talking about this, I'm never going to pronounce this right, Ydo Kate? It's sort of like
Yes.
Educate and her last name kind of combined together, where she consults companies about the design and implementation of XR for educational purposes. So Evelien's going to talk to us about hygiene in the use of VR. So Evelien, I pass the floor over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the introduction. I appreciate it. It's good to be back. It has been a while. I might be a bit rusty, but I will try my best. And it's really cool to see you all in the audience. I will try and make this a very interactive presentation. I would love to hear about your challenges considering this topic, and maybe we can discuss some improvement points on your part, or you can do some suggestions to me. This will be like a open discussion as well, so feel free to raise your hand if there's anything you would like to add. But what you can expect from this presentation, well, at the beginning of the Corona crisis, I wrote an article together with a lot of people in the field, so a lot of people who work with VR, researchers, but also non-researchers, all kinds of experts on the topic how to use VR headsets safely during the COVID pandemic, because the way how we cleansed these headsets and sanitized these headsets wasn't really sufficient anymore at the time. So we looked at the ways how we did it at the time and came up with ideas how we could do it during the COVID pandemic, but they are still very relevant. And it's not only about COVID now anymore, it's also about the flu and things we learned throughout the years now, unfortunately. It's already been years. And I would really like to discuss this with you guys and see if I can teach you something new. So even though I have done extensive research in collaboration with fellow researchers and fellow VR experts, we are all not medical experts. So these are our findings, but know this, keep this in mind. Just wanted to put that out there. All right, so I'm really curious about you guys. How does this problem apply to you? So there are a couple of areas that pose a high safety risk, considering using VR headsets on multiple people. And I will name them, and I'm really curious if this applies to you, if you can give me an emoticon. Doesn't really matter what emoticon it is, so I have an idea about who is in the audience. So the first area that poses a high safety risk is the VR location-based entertainment industry. So is anybody out in the audience working in this field, in this area? All right. The second one is showcasing events or larger gatherings in general where headsets are swapped between people. I definitely have experienced that. You as well, I see in the back. Yeah, that is definitely a challenge. All right, and the next one is VR labs that use VR among multiple people. We definitely have them at our university. Yeah, you as well, Ryan, I see. Yeah, definitely. Education that uses VR among multiple people. Think about schools, universities, but also vocational education. Yeah, same. And lastly, headsets that are used on a daily basis by multiple people. And this can also be your family or friends. Now, we can all probably relate to that. So these are basically the areas that supposedly pose the highest safety risk for using headsets on multiple people. So what can you expect during this presentation? These are the topics that I also discuss in my article. You can find the article on my LinkedIn page, but also on the Educators in VR website. If you scroll back a bit. First of all, detergents and hand sanitizers. We've all heard about them. I will quickly go over these, what you need to know. Furthermore, we have different face pads and UVC lights. It's a really popular method of deterging VR headsets. And fourth, we have nanotechnology. That's an interesting one. Not being used a lot, but still it's good to know. It's an interesting twist. And lastly, of course, you have to educate your staff, yourself, clients, or students, depending on your situation. So we will go over these topics during this presentation. And if at any point you want to add something, have a question, feel free to raise your hand. I think that is on already. Let me put that option on for you. So on the bottom right, you see a raise hand button. You can click that and I will get notified, or the team will get a notification that somebody has posed a question. We can discuss it in the group. So there's that. I hope that's clear. Is that clear for everyone? All right, cool. So to start off with detergents and hand sanitizers. So we used to have baby wipes or regular antibacterial wipes, but they didn't kill the COVID virus and they also don't really kill the flu viruses. So we need to figure out something else. COVID survives around 72 hours on plastic at the time, and I can imagine that the research has found something else by now, but it at least was a long time and you can't just quarantine your headset. You really had to deterge it. So different detergents have different effects on the survival of these viruses. And ethanol-based detergents seem to be most efficient against viruses and COVID. So therefore, I usually use ethanol, but you have to take into account the concentration of alcohol. If it's too low, it won't kill it properly. If it's too high, it doesn't work either. And that was a little bit surprising to me, as I thought, okay, the higher the better, but that's definitely not the case. You might wonder, okay, why is that? Well, this is because the proteins of a virus are not really easily destroyed without the presence of water. And a high percentage of alcohol will evaporate really quickly. So that's why that doesn't work. I found it very insightful. Ideally, you have a concentration between 60 or 80%. I have 70% usually because that's easily available in my country. I live in the Netherlands. So I'm sure you can figure it out yourself. Yeah, furthermore, when cleaning with alcohol, you have to make sure that all surfaces are wet. So I have this beautiful headset here, but as you can imagine, when you put on your headset, certain areas touch your face and you touch certain areas. Yeah, you definitely have to clean those and then let them dry properly. So it is properly cleansed. Yeah, we also experienced when we were experimenting with these alcohol wipes and alcohol methods some damage to the headset. Unfortunately, we knew this because everywhere disclaims, okay, alcohol will probably damage the plastic a bit. And this was the case, but it was not too bad. It was mostly some discoloring. And I just needed to use the headset, so it was worth it. It didn't break, it just discolored. Yeah, every manufacturer tells you not to use harsh detergents on headset or controllers. So take that into account. And please also make sure to not use alcohol or other detergents on the lenses. It will damage them for sure. And you won't be able to use your headset properly anymore. So you have to use these wipes without anything on it that you use for your glasses as well. Yeah, don't make that mistake. That will be a shame. So a concession has to be made between potentially damaging the material of your headset in the long term if you want to protect your users when you choose for this disinfection method. I wonder, has anybody in this audience used these detergents to clean the headsets the past 2 years or so? And how did that go for you? I would love to hear more about that. Emil, yes. I can put you on megaphone if you raise your hand. On the bottom right, you can press that button. Yes, perfect. All right, we should be able to hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Definitely.
Perfect. Yes, I have worked with detergents in the last 2 years. I've been working with virtual reality equipment in a hospital setting. So that has been quite important to manage that correctly. But we have also used other equipment, so the face paddings and the UVC box with the mixed results.
Awesome. So how did you, what did you find with the alcohol detergents? Did you also damage your headset?
Not really. I would say that we probably have the benefit of the doubt in terms of protecting the older adults. So we didn't really use it that much. So no, we used some wipes. Don't really apply the gel because the residue of the gel will get stuck on the headset. So that will prevent a thorough cleaning. And we had an outside expert in Denmark working with the UVC-light, actually giving us a good introduction to how to manage it. And he has some reservations towards UVC.
Perfect. I'm really curious about that as well. I think the third topic will be UVC lights, and that is, I think, one of my favorite ways to be safe with these headsets. And I would love for you to then also tell us about your experience with these UVC boxes, or
sure thing,
depending on what you're using. Yeah, thanks for your input.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else that wants to, share something about using alcohol or other detergents maybe in their labs or wherever you work or use your headset? Rob, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Rob Terrio from Ontario, Canada. Our infection control protocol involves, so first of all, hand washing, retrieving the headset and controllers from a UV cleaner. We did purchase some. I don't know if it's appropriate to call out names of companies, but we were using CleanBox and we've switched to UV Stand because they're bigger units and they'll hold 12 to 20 units, clean them, charge them, store them at a time. And then we from our nursing program, they suggested that the students wear bonnets so you don't get hair products on the straps and everything. And they also wear masks or shields to avoid getting makeup on the faceplate of the headsets. And we use wipes as well, and we use 70% alcohol based. And then once the headset has been used, then we go through hand washing and then wiping down the controllers and the headset, and then put them into the UVC box for the next time.
Awesome, that's great. It's perfect that you have this procedure there because in my work, people have good intentions, but the procedures are not really clear. So you can make some mistakes with that if you don't, for example, clean in the right order. So it's really cool to hear that that's already in place at your place. So awesome. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's see. Ryan, you as well. This will be the last one. Hey, Ryan. We can't hear you yet. All right, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Maybe you can press the button again. I can put you on megaphone again. All right, how about now? Can anybody hear Ryan? Because I can't. Laurel, what's going on? Can you hear it? Can you help us out here?
Okay, hang on. So Ryan, can you speak right now? Let's see if you can hear you. Nope. Check your audio. So if you could go to your audio settings, so hit the big circle with the triangle on, and go to setting audio and check the audio input. Make sure that's right. Should take a second. Should be set to your headset. Okay, it is. Well, for some, and if sometimes you have to update your permissions in with your headset, make sure that you do it. So if you could check that, and then we want to hear from you, or you can message me and I can repeat the question. Either one works. Okay. All right. So until we get that figured out,
Yes. Okay.
Evelien, you can continue. Thanks.
Definitely. Feel free to raise your hand again when you figured it out. All right. Okay. So next topic. The disposable and cleanable face pads. Rob already said that he was using that to prevent makeup or hair products staining the headset. That is awesome. So VR headsets usually have face pads, which are not waterproof. You probably noticed this yourself when you look at your headset. It's basically a sponge, usually what has been put on there that you put on your face. So it soaks up moisture. It's not hygienic. I don't know why they still make it like that. Of course, it's comfortable, but it's definitely not clean, definitely not in the long term if you use it on multiple people. But there are great ways to solve this issue. We have these replacements you can use, or these covers you can put over your spongy face pad. But you can also just buy a fake leather or a leather face pad that you can just wipe off with these alcohol detergents. I'm really a big fan of that. I've used that a lot. It is comfortable still. It is hygienic, waterproof. So that works great. You also have these silicone ones. You basically just have to Google face pads for VR headsets, for your VR headset, and you will find a lot of options, which are usually great if they are waterproof. Because if you can imagine, if they aren't, you have the same idea as your spongy face pad on your headset. So make sure, of course, to wash your disposable face pads if you have cotton ones. And if you're using these Zorro masks, I always call them, or these almost paper-based disposable face pads. Also keep in mind that some of them are not waterproof. So if your client or a student is sweating a lot, it still gets through. So it helps against stains, but it's not entirely safe. So maybe you can consider combining that with this waterproof fake leather one. That would be optimal. Are there any questions about this topic? Do you all already own a more hygienic face pad, and do you find it comfortable, or do you have other solutions that work great, or tips or suggestions for the rest of the audience? If you want to add anything, please click your raise hand button in the bottom right. I am happy to talk to you about these topics. Laurel, yes.
Yes. There's a concern with some people in high humidity, high heat areas, and especially in summer, but all year round, with fungus growing in and also steam and things. But the different kinds of pads that are around, the pads, if they're foam, they tend to disintegrate faster, and that all those particles can get into the headset as well as on the face and whatnot. I've been in places where I've actually taken off my headset with a foam pad and actually had the foam outline stuck to my face. Can you address that issue in what is a recommended way of dealing with the fungus issue, the growing algae, whatever growing in there, as well as the heat thing? Humidity?
I can imagine. Yeah, of course, moisture gets trapped in a sponge. It's basically a sponge. So if it's a wet, humid climate over where you live, definitely consider buying a waterproof one or a silicone one even. Might be better. I wouldn't doubt about buying that in that scenario, it sounds horrible to have fungi on your face or your sponge just falling out of your headset. Yeah, I mean, these are really cheap, the silicone ones. Definitely try that. Yes. All right, is there another one on the question? No. All right. Yeah, this is a simple topic. It's not complicated. It's just clear as sky. But the next topic I really enjoy. I didn't know about UVC lights 2 years ago. It was all new to me. It has been used in the medical world for a long time. Oh, I see UVE light, but it should be UVC light. Sorry, typo. UVC lights, usually people confuse UVC light with UVA or UVB lights. This is not the same thing. They have different wavelengths and therefore have another effect on your headset. So the UVA and the UVB come from sunlight. You have that on your every day when you're outside, but they will damage your lenses. For example, if you put your head in the sun, directly in the sun on the lenses, it will burn like a magnifying glass on your screens. So you will damage your screens. But UVC light has a different effect, luckily. So don't confuse these three. I think it's the safest way considering killing the Cofit virus and other viruses, as it destroys when the UVC light hits the viruses or the bacteria or even fungi. Then you might say, okay, well, I will just keep my sponge, put it in a UVC light box, and it will be cleansed of my fungi. It doesn't work like that. Of course, it can only kill the surfaces it hits. So if it's like within your face bed, for example, or if the light is not able to directly hit it, it will probably not sufficiently clean or deter your headset. So be mindful about that. Yeah, so it's also a bit complicated, this topic, so I will keep it, quite general. But the things you should take into account when considering buying or making a light box yourself is that you need a specific distance from the light source, a specific time in the light source, specific wavelength, like I said before, and no shadows. And that makes it really tricky to make your own box. In the beginning of the crisis, I had to do research, and there was a lockdown in the Netherlands. So I had a lot of time to think about this topic and how I would collect the data. And now I couldn't use the headsets on multiple people. And then I figured out this is the best way, the UVC lights, to ensure that I could kill, the virus. So I tried making my own box together with my super handy partner. And it was super difficult. It was really difficult to calculate the distance, the time, find the right lights or lamps. So I would advise you to be really careful when you consider that. Right now, there are a lot of options available in the market. They can be a bit pricey, but depending on your situation, definitely worth it. I also heard from Emil and Rob, I think you use it as well, right, UVC? That these guys used it as well. So I'm really curious to hear about your experiences with it. Is it easy to use for you? Would you recommend it? And what would be the downsides of your specific boxes? I am curious about that. All right, Ryan, let's try again. Let's see if we can make it work. Hey, Ryan. I see you unmuted yourself at least, but I still can't hear you, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Let's see. Maybe you can figure it out later. You can always send a message to Laurel, and maybe you guys can figure it out through text. All right, Rob.
Oops. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're using UVC, but I'm curious to know how well they work as well for the things that you mentioned. Where does the light hit? Does it hit every surface? So I'm hoping that this fall or in the winter 2023, I've been talking with one of the professors from our biotech degree to see if they would do a little bit of a study to compare tapes and on headsets and controllers versus the clean box versus the UV SAN, see which ones are most effective, if UVC is more effective than standard cleaning, or if one type of device, UVC device, is better than another. So might be bad news for the UVC companies, or good news depending
That
on
is so
the outcome of
interesting.
the study.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
We'll
I
see,
am
but
really curious.
because I looked for some literature on the subject and couldn't really find
Mhm.
anything. And of course, you can't trust corporate, advertising about those sorts of things. So I'll
Yeah,
be
I
curious to
remember
know.
at the time when I did this research, I think I found an independent article on the Cleanbox box,
Okay,
but that was about it, and there were not a lot of companies around at that time.
right.
So yeah, it is tricky. But like you said, the shadows are a big issue. So depending on your box, you can already like kind of guess if there are a lot of shadows. Some boxes only had like lights on top, so then you had to turn your headset and then put on the light again. So there was a lot of possibility for human error there. Also, you had to touch the headset again.
And each box has a different time criteria. So Clean Box says that it'll work in 60 seconds. UV SAN says take 5 minutes. And there are a couple of other companies that are around the 5 to 6 minute range.
Yeah, I always find it really interesting because the trick is the distance to the light source will determine, and the wavelength, of course, will determine how long you need to put your headset in. So if these companies have the same wavelength and the same distance, it makes no sense. 60 seconds was definitely enough for Cleanbox, considering that research study that I read. But I would be really curious if they keep it in just out of, yeah.
I also wonder if there's a concern around standing too close to a clean box or UV SAN, if some of that light is getting to you because it's cancer causing, and short exposures can be sufficient to alter your DNA. So I wonder if that's, I've never seen a warning
Yes.
about it, because I've seen students standing right next to the clean box waiting for the 60 seconds to be up. And my suggestion was, you might want to stand just a few feet away.
Yeah, you're right about that. Definitely. UVC light is damaging to your skin and eyes. I know that is a bit controversial because sometimes I read something else, but I think caution is definitely needed for that. I think there's proof that you can get it simulates cancer growth, basically. But also the wavelength is not that long. And there's also glass in between the headset. If you look at the Cleanbox, for example, this example on the screen, that you
Right.
shouldn't be worried when it's in the box. But if you would, open the door, then it's different. I also saw a lot of these UVC wands. I don't know. You all know what a wand is, right? But that, of course, is not safe at all. If you just wave around a wand without any protection, and you have no clue what the distance is between the light source of your wand and the headset and the amount of time that you use it. These things are pretty dangerous, I would say, or at least unreliable. Yes, that was interesting. So, do you have any other concerns, Rob, or on other findings when you have used these UVC boxes?
Not so far, no.
That's good. All right. Okay, Ryan, I will give you another chance. Let's see if we can make it work. You should be on. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. We tried. Thanks for putting in the effort. All right. Well, let's continue then to the next topic. I don't know if you guys have heard of nanotechnology. It's a bit of a broad, term, but it's basically the technology that could make a lot of things that are not waterproof. And this is really interesting when you think about some parts of the headset that you can't really swap out with waterproof parts. Think about the spaces in between your lenses. They're usually made of fabric or of any sort. You can't really make that waterproof. And of course, you don't really touch that, or you're not supposed to touch that, but it can happen. People touch it with their fingers, moisture gets up in the glasses maybe. So one way to battle this is with nanotechnology spray. It's basically a hydrophobic nano spray. That means that water will not stick to it. You probably have seen it in some advertisements or so, like on this picture. You can make your white shoes waterproof. It really works like that. I have tested it out. It's like magic. You can make your cotton shirt waterproof. So it's also a really funny experiment to test out. It protects against makeup smudges, but you should know that the majority of these coatings contain a harmful PFAS chemical. That is not great. It leads to health and environment problems, so you should make sure your spray is safe to use. There are definitely brands that don't have these chemicals in them. So you have different sprays for different materials, and the one that I was referring to, the fabric in between your lenses, that is what I used it on. So that should be fabric spray. Follow the instructions, please, because they differ per spray. So you can, make it foolproof. And furthermore, it's a bit unclear what the effect on the lenses are. So I always covered up the lenses by just cutting out like a piece of paper in the form of my lens and just, putting it on my lenses while I sprayed, so it didn't touch the lenses, and it worked great for me. So don't use tape, by the way. You might think, oh, I just put some tape on the lenses. But of course you would get residue on the lenses. You don't want that. Also, lastly, nanotech wears off. So you should test it once in a while. You can just put one droplet of water on the fabric and it will roll off like you see on the shoes, if it's still there. And if not, you can just put on more spray, but it usually, for me, it at least was good for 3 months or so, at least. And consider detergents break down the coating, but I don't use alcohol on that area of my headset. Keep that in mind. Has anybody ever used nanotech for headset on their headset to make it? No, all right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about. I would say it's the best option you have. Of course, if you put it on your sponge face pad, you put it on your face as well. It probably wears off definitely more quicker. So it's really for the space in between your lenses, I think. Otherwise, it's interesting, but not really the solution. Then we have the last point, and I think it's the most important point that gets looked over a lot, especially after 2 years of coming up with procedures, being in different companies, doing research. I've been through it all. I see this is the biggest issue still today, unfortunately. You have to educate your staff, clients, and students, and also yourself, and you held yourself responsible for your actions considering cleaning your headsets. Yeah, the health checks, assertiveness during customer contact, building trust with your students or with your customer, whatever, and following the right protocols are essential. And I'm curious to hear about how, I heard from Rob, for example, you already have a protocol, but how you implemented that in your situation and how you make sure that everybody follows the protocol. That's always tricky. Furthermore, it could be useful to do like a risk assessment and evaluation to get a better understanding of the specific safety risks of your situation, so you can adapt your protocol to that. So people are more convinced and more sure about that. For example, here I have a slide with like a super simple step-by-step protocol for users. There's of course a difference between users and the researchers in this case, or the people that are working with the headsets, cleaning the headsets. They have a different protocol, but it's also important to take care of the users so they know what's going on. if you want to see the whole protocol, you can look at the article for maybe some inspiration for your own protocol, or to check if we can add something, help each other out. Maybe something's missing. Yeah. So I wonder, how did you tackle this problem during these times? Have you ever thought about this? Have you ideas about how to implement protocols, or are you still at the beginning steps? Like, oh, I have no idea. I didn't know anything. I want to create a protocol. How do I do that? Please raise your hand if you want to ask or add anything to the discussion. We'll be happy to talk about it. All right, Rob.
Yeah, I just went to the CDC and the World Health Organization and a couple of other sites to see what protocols existed, and then just adapted them to our own. They're fairly, I mean, their protocols are very, very simple. Just the basic things you've listed here, including hand washing before you handle the equipment, and hand washing after you handle the equipment, and proper storage, etc.
Yeah. These protocols should be very simple, because in my experience, if you make them really complicated or you use a lot of text, even this protocol has a lot of text. It could probably be more compact, but it works better. It's easier for people to use. Yeah, cool, awesome. Anyone else? All right. I guess that were all the topics I was here to talk about. I am curious if you guys have any questions or anything else to add. Please click the raise hand button in the bottom right. Yes, Emil.
Yes, hello again.
Hey.
I tried raising the hand during the UVC discussion, but maybe I exceeded my quota, so it didn't work.
No, I don't know. I didn't saw you.
No worries. We did implement a protocol that was accepted by the nurses, hygienic nurse in the department, but we did do a quick review about just the national health or hygienic protocols that was developed in different regions in Denmark. It was very diverse when you looked at it. So there's no really homogeneity in how these hygienic protocols are devised or adhered to. And I think we started initially using the UVC box and building the protocol around it, but following our initial tests about the efficacy, we actually decided to remove it, because it can give this false sense of security, where you sort of decrease your adherence to more important solutions, such as hand hygiene and disinfection of the headset with a piece of cloth, and even water is the best agent that you can use. And this is also described by the IUVA, the International Ultraviolet Association, that says you should not use UVC light in tandem, or you have to use it in tandem with other solutions, because it's not, as soon as you have this buildup of residue on the thing that you want to clean, it's gonna serve as a surface, so the light will not penetrate.
Exactly.
We have a few interesting results already, but it's unfortunately in a article under review, so I cannot disclose anything.
Too bad. I think that's an awesome point, actually, that you said only where the light hits, it will, cleanse. But if you have like a layer of dirt, you probably won't see that even. It's probably not visible to the eye. It's definitely less efficient. I really like that you say that, because in all the cases that I've seen, and I've been to many companies, they have these UVC boxes, but they never mentioned that they also wiped the face pads. And I'm sure they did once in a while, but not as consistently. So that should be in a procedure for sure. Awesome.
And another point is that when you use those UVC LEDs from Crystal LED, for example, I mean, is probably not very well described, that they have a not a very long time expectancy or lifespan. Since you cannot see UVC light, you're not going to know whether or not they actually stop working. So if you go shopping for a UVC box, I think it would be beneficial to ask the producer, do you have any UVC detectors or sensors that can detect if a UVC light stops working? So you get an alert. And I'm not sure that all the UVC manufacturers actually build this into the prototype.
Yeah, I've not heard that either. Indeed, no, indeed, they have the life expectancy.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
think.
it for now.
But that's it.
Yeah.
Awesome, that is awesome. I really appreciate this valuable information and your thoughts about it, as you have apparently had a lot of experience with these UVC boxes. Very valuable. I remember when I built that box myself,
very
I
welcome.
was busy with this. I think it's called a photon meter. You know, you can see the wavelength and the strength of the lights. And then it was really annoying to do yourself. So
Exactly,
it would be awesome if that's built into your box that you bought. For that price, you can expect something like that, I would say. And of course, for safety reasons. Thanks, appreciate it, Emil. Awesome. All right. Are there any other questions, suggestions? Ah, yeah, Tunesis. I hope I pronounced that right. Hello. Thanks. Are you? Well, you're here at the Univirtual 2022, and this is a presentation about hygiene and safety. All right. Well, that's all right. Don't worry about it. Neural.
Hi.
Hey.
Sorry, we were dealing with a few things. I want to first of all, just need to thank you. This is absolutely fascinating. Um, when you've talked about a variety of cleaning things, and managing the cleaning process is, there needs to be the protocols in place. But how do we make this be really comfortable for everyone to understand that, number one, they need to clean their headsets on a regular basis just for themselves, but when you share,
Mhm.
what really can pass? What could people get by sharing the headsets?
Ah, you mean what you could end up with, for example, Cofit?
Yeah, or
Yes.
COVID or rashes,
Well,
or
there are
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
things that are, of course, transmittable through face bed. For example, if you have like a contagious infection or so, if you put it on your face and then you just swap it with someone else, that could be a problem. Of course, you have bacteria on your face. I know some people are really sensitive to that and get acne from that. If that gets swapped with another person, or only maybe their own sweat and dirt, that could already be a problem. I have seen, you don't want to Google this, but I have seen pictures of people that never cleanse their face pad ever, and they already use their headset for 2 years, and one day they end up with this rash, and it's specifically on the place where the face pad touched their face. So that's really a bad situation there. Obviously, you can expect that. COVID, that is also a thing. It's a bit tricky because some people, there are some research articles about it. Some people claim, yeah, okay, it touches your face, but it doesn't mean that moisture droplets, that's how COVID spreads, right, end up on the headset or not. I always thought about this like, oh, better be safe than sorry. I feel uncomfortable with it as well because it gets close to your nose, your face. So I'm pretty sure you could end up with COVID. In the beginning, we thought the threat was super high with that, but there are some speculations out there that it might be, there is a chance that it doesn't, it's not on your face, so it doesn't stick to the headset per se. So the chances of getting it might be lower than we expected before. But it doesn't matter if the chance is there, then it's still an issue. So there's that. It depends. It really depends. There are a lot of strange stuff you can get through, bacteria on your face, viruses. Yes.
Yes. And I had, as a follow-up for that, um, Dr. Angelina Dayton, who I know you know, she used to carry her headsets around from school to school in pillowcases, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of banging around and a lot of smashing
Yeah.
around. One of the things you haven't really covered is that is also just as important is what the headset comes in contact with besides the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Hauling it around, banging it around. I mean, is there anything that in your research you found that, I mean, obviously dropping it from a great height, not a good idea, but anything you can touch on that aspect to make sure we keep our headsets as long as we can? Being that I inherited a
Well,
headset that has the
I can
controllers
tell you
are
from
been chewed by a
experience.
dog, so
Yeah, right.
I have teeth marks on my controllers, and I kind of love it. It's like a badge of honor.
Uh, yeah, you have to be careful with that, of course. Well, my research was mostly about not really carrying around the headsets or transporting the headsets, more about using it. So I assumed, or at least in my line of work, people have these cases for their headsets. So you can put them in there compactly and protect them against falling damage, etc. So I have that practical knowledge for you. That is probably not the best idea for your headset safety and durability. Keep them in pillowcases. I mean, it might work. I don't know. I have not tried that.
Well, 10 in a headset, 10 in a, or 5 or 10 in a pillowcase is probably not a good idea. I think she
Yeah,
shoved each one in a pillowcase and then one in a big bag. But I always have
I
this
would be
vision of
worried about the
10
lenses
headsets.
mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and about the controllers getting mixed up in some instances. That is a bit tricky depending on your
Oh,
headset.
excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is really fascinating.
Thanks for your questions. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me here as a speaker.
Absolutely.
It was really fun to be back. Yes. Okay, Nathalie. Oh, it has been a while. I do remember your name.
Yeah, hello.
Hey.
So I'm on the tail end of this, but since we're talking about like headsets touching the face and everything, I actually took an old Quest 1 and mounted it to a bicycle helmet. So I got tired of like halo straps and just the standard strap and all that. So I mounted a Quest 1 on a bicycle helmet. So all you do is you take the whole headset and just plop it on your head. And the faceplate doesn't even have a pad on it. It's like a centimeter away from my face. It's actually quite amazing. But it looks
so
ridiculous.
if I understand correctly, you use the helmet to make sure the headset doesn't touch your face.
Yeah. I mounted a Quest 1 on a bicycle helmet through a
That
series
is creative.
of like bungee cables, shoestrings, compression straps, all kinds of things. It's like ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous looking thing you've ever seen. But like, it's the first time I've been comfortable for a while. And it's also very
hilarious.
hygienic too. Yeah, because you don't have the whole like that rubber face plate like digging into your face. It's quite good actually, but it looks completely silly. But I like it.
I think you deserve the prize of most creative solution here. I've heard some creative solutions, but you definitely are number one. So it's really interesting. We just talked about these topics, and I think you might, if you read the article, my listener, or watch back this presentation, you might get some easier ideas or more comfortable ideas for using your headset in a safe and hygienic way. Maybe. Nice, thanks. That was hilarious. Appreciate it. All right, stands with. Where are you?
Okay. I just had a question for Nicely. I was just wondering, how the heck do you block the light when you do that? If it's a centimeter away from your face, how do you block the light from getting in? I don't know. I just found that really interesting that he has it attached to a uh
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what I tend to do is not have any like peripheral light, like from the sides. And even if I do have the way the mask is curved at the front, it doesn't let any light in. Like it's not disruptive at all. So it kind of works. So
Oh, awesome.
the only
Yeah,
thing,
that's so
yeah,
interesting. That's great.
yeah, it was an experiment because it's just a Quest 1. So I thought, why not try this? So I did. It works. It's ridiculous. It works.
Nice. All right, hilarious. Thanks. All right. I think that's it. That were all the questions. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you learned something new. I really learned something from you guys. New insights and new ideas as well. Even some super creative ones. I really enjoyed that. I hope you also explore some other presentations during these univirtual events. And I hope you have a nice day. Thank you so much for your attention again.
And let's all give Evelien some emojis. Thank you, Evelien, for all the time and effort you put into this event and for everything you put into this group in the last couple of years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yay. So just before everybody scatters, I'll just let you know that in 1 hour from now, we have another event on the